things that you think about and some things you don't. I am your host, OMG, along with my co-host,
your wellness lawyer, Susan.
And we do have an in-studio guest today.
Barbara Humphrey.
Barbara Humphrey is joining us.
Welcome,
And as
Barbara.
always, family, we'd like to thank you for joining us, and we ask that you please join in on the conversation, where your thoughts, your comments, and your opinions help drive the conversation. Our number here at the studio is 713-789-0096. Now, today our topic is Bless Your Heart. Now, as you know, bless means to request of God the bestowal of divine favor. I suggest that we all do that, especially after we hear what's happened with actually my in-studio guest and one of my co-hosts. Okay, so heart attack, guys, is probably one of the most widely known emergencies worldwide. It is the #1 cause of death in Western countries, and it is also a common cause of concern among seniors as well as younger adults. Now, younger adults, remember, I just said you guys are included in this. You are not exempt. Overstand that. Don't understand. Overstand that. Heart attack occurs when the blood flow that brings oxygen to the heart muscle is severely reduced or stopped. This happens because coronary arteries that supplies the heart with blood can slowly become thicker and harder from a buildup of fat, cholesterol, and other substances called plaque. This slow process is known as atherosclerosis. Say it right. Atherosclerosis. If the plaque breaks down and a blood clot forms that blocks the blood flow, then a heart attack automatically occurs. Now, heart attack strikes somewhere almost every 43 seconds. Many women think the signs of a heart attack are unmistakable, but they can be quite subtle and sometimes confusing. Our own wellness warrior, Susanette, suffered a heart attack about 8 or 9 years ago at the age of...
I was 43 at the time,
43,
so
sorry.
close to 12.
12 years ago at 43. And my longtime friend and studio guest, Barbara Humphrey, just recently had a heart attack at the age of 59. Now, praise God that Barbara is fine, and she has come to share her story so that others can benefit from what could have been a fatal attack for her. This is my good friend. I'm glad she's okay. Barbara, thank you for joining us today and on the All About You show. And tell us a little bit about yourself first and that dreadful day in October.
Yes, October 28th.
Okay, tell us a little bit about yourself and then lead into that incident.
Okay, well, I just was kind of in shock that I would have a heart attack. I never thought, because
none of us think about that.
And I'm not overweight. I exercise. I predominantly eat healthy, so it was kind of a shock.
So you were at work and just what did you feel?
Well, it was a Sunday, and I woke up in the morning at 8 and had really bad burning sensation in my chest, and I just thought it was acid reflux. So I just took a Prilosec and
kept going.
Just got ready for work, went to work, got in about 12, and still was feeling bad. So on the way there, I had stopped to buy some Tums. So I took like 3 Tums, and it still wasn't going away. So as the day went on, I was like, maybe I just need to leave and go
go rest.
I thought I'll go to one of the
emergency clinics.
Yeah, and they'll give me something, and it's going to go away. And I was just thinking, wanting to be able to
very
sleep.
Simple process.
Right.
Yeah. So I went into Memorial Hermann emergency on 1093 and told them what I was feeling, and so they put me in a room, and he gave me the cocktail that would numb it, and he said if this doesn't work, then they started did an EKG, and I felt it, and then he came back and did another one, and I still felt that. So he said, well, they're going to pull some blood to check if there's enzymes in my blood, which there was, and at that point he says, you're having a heart attack.
Did you feel anything? No burning, no grabbing the chest, none of
the burning is what I felt, and it was worse, 100% worse than my normal. I have heartburn, so that's what.
So it was okay.
Yeah. So when he said you're having a heart attack, then they got me in a gown.
They got a fast movement at that.
Called ahead at Memorial Hermann, Katie, and had the cath lab be ready for me when I got there, and then the EMS came and they put the IV already in, so I was all set, prepped, and ready to go straight into the cath lab.
So what turned from a very simple situation now turns into something major?
I was still not believing
I can
it.
believe that. You see my face.
Because I didn't call anybody. So when they're making me sign all the release forms and
Sure,
stuff, I'm
sure.
like, oh, I think I need to call my sister.
So,
That would be
But somebody
Right now,
got-
and then
that would be
call
best.
her.
Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
so they were, but they did great, and I'm very lucky because I had no heart damage. But
But that's when you know
Yeah.
that they were all over it.
they
Yeah.
were. It's
Yeah.
time is the key.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so they wheeled me in, and like I said, they put me right on the table, and then they did the catheterization through my wrist,
Oh, okay.
and I had 100% blocked in the back. I don't know what it's called, the artery in the back.
Really?
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
And then I have 60% on the artery in the front that they're just treating with medicine because they don't like to do it until it's like 70%
Mhm,
blocked.
mhm.
So I still need to,
To get some more stuff done.
continue to.
You know, I think, as a matter of fact, we have the article that was done on you at Memorial Hermann. She praised the hospital so well for saving her life and
Absolutely.
how good of a job they did. They wrote an article on it. If you look at
And I
the
know how
screen.
that feels. I
Yeah.
definitely do. And you know, when we come back, I don't know how much time we have because I want you to explain to them. I know what it means, but explain to people what it means when you have failed EKGs, electrocardiograms, because a lot of people feel like an EKG is the end all and be all, as I did.
Mhm.
So we'll definitely have to get into that because if you don't have the right kind of doctors, they can send you home.
Right.
And see, that was a small, one of the,
The neat thing
But
about
it was
why I kind of
Memorial
went there,
Hermann.
I had stopped at one prior on my way home
that's
to
what I mean.
work.
They have them all over.
Mhm.
So,
But I didn't go to, it's not an urgent care, it's an actual emergency room. And I'm glad I stopped there because the other ones I might have gone home because they don't.
that's my point. That's what I'm saying. You
You know-
absolutely had picked the right one. So
Right.
that was God blessing your heart
Right.
at that point, literally.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's what I want people to understand. It wasn't an urgent care. They did kind of, in the Chronicle,
There's
miss that
They-
point.
Yeah.
So it was an actual emergency room.
Absolutely.
So-
And that's a big difference as well because not
Right.
every urgent care
We'll have
has
someone
EKG
that's going to be
machines that
right.
can read them.
Right. I think we're getting a signal here that we're going to break. One thing is up. We'll be right back.
But someone told me, and I don't know, that the EKG, because I was telling them my EKG, I've never had a failed EKG.
I was going to ask, how do you fail? What does it not do?
That I didn't ask.
Well, it was my understanding of it that my EKG was
Now, you know
normal.
we need all this conversation.
And it was my understanding that my EKG was normal,
Uh-huh.
and they kept running it. And at the time, St. Christus, I think it
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
that they were like an open regular hospital during that time. And it was my understanding that when that failed, and the head nurse, she said, "Don't move. You're not going anywhere." She wouldn't let me move.
Yeah.
Which I was fine with because I wasn't feeling my best. But
But it sounds like neither one of you guys were really just, I
No.
can't.
if anyone had
No, I-
ever told me, I would have said no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I mean, I drove myself there.
That's what we need to. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Expound.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, there are times sometimes when I get off my Bowflex, I feel a little tightness in my chest, but then I don't know exactly, and I don't have reflux. I mean, I don't have acid reflux.
And see, I do too,
So I
which I
don't know
think
what it is,
also
but
makes
it seems
me.
like
30 seconds.
It seems like it busy. It goes away. You know? It
Which
may
is
just
what
be
women do.
stress. You know, we don't have time to worry about it, so we gotta
Right.
keep
And
going.
driving, you know, we have muscles up here too. So
Right.
sometimes I feel tenseness from driving, and I go.
15 seconds.
That may be what it
What
is
is it?
because I drive it. Yeah.
Mhm. You back over?
Welcome back. You're listening to All About You with OMG and Friends, along with my co-host.
Your wellness warrior, Susanette.
And we have an in-studio guest that I'm grateful for her presence here, my good friend.
Barbara Humphrey.
Barbara was talking to us about, actually she and our wellness warrior both were commenting when we were off air about they both having had a heart attack
Mhm.
and some of the things that we think we know about it.
Mhm.
So if you could continue with your question
Well,
with her.
one of the things we were talking about is EKGs. And people think that EKG would be the end all and the be all, but in your case and in my case, the EKG didn't tell the doctors what they needed to know. They had to do the blood draw.
Right.
why not do that first? Why even bother with the
Yeah.
EKG?
Well, I think sometimes they probably think that it's going to be very evident. But I know you figure if two people were sitting in the same room and neither one of us showed any signs through an EKG, then
Right.
definitely
Yeah.
it's showing the enzymes that's going to be the answer to the problem.
Right.
Because they told me as soon as they did a blood draw, they were like,
Yeah.
your enzymes show that you had a heart attack.
I'm just amazed that there was no real, I guess you watch TV, we've all seen Sanford and Son, people grab his
Right.
heart and drag around and you got time.
Right.
But from listening to both of you, and especially you, Barbara, having had one recently, 12 years ago, you drove yourself.
Right.
See, I would have been
Never
tripped
had
out.
a chest pain, did you?
Nah.
See?
See, that is amazing to me. How do you not have chest pain?
And I was
heart attack?
breathing fine. I mean,
And see, that's the difference with mine. I wasn't, but I don't even know if what component of that was anxiety. Because when you're feeling as strange as you're feeling, it's very easy to get anxious. And at the time, I was having probably more anxiety attacks than I.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I would have given myself a heart attack if I wasn't having one. I would have given myself because I was, I've been all worked up.
Exactly.
And so I don't know that I would have, especially if I were feeling okay, if I were able to drive, I would have just gone home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's not a good thing.
Right.
So you have to know when to cross that line and go over to, let me not play with this.
And it's hard. To me, it's hard to guess because if you talk to someone else, they may say, oh, that was just heartburn that I had. I thought I was having a heart attack. And I've had heartburn in the past that was more severe than heartburn I had having a heart attack.
right.
So you kind of like, well, and I think even Susan Lucci
Yeah,
from All My Children, she just had a
like
heart
that.
attack.
Hell, she's 80 something.
Yeah.
Not that that matters,
Right,
but
and
yeah.
same thing. Though she was not going to do anything
And
about
she's
it.
in good shape. She's a tiny, petite
Absolutely,
woman.
she works out every
So
day.
has nothing.
Right.
Sometimes all the stuff that they tell us to do isn't always the one all be all. Genetics has a lot to do with it. Hereditary,
What you
traits,
eat, how you
how
live.
you eat, how you live your life. All those things matter because I've actually had very close friend of mine to pass, and they were running marathons and triathlons and doing all the athletic stuff that comes around, and had a heart attack jogging.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think you can overexert the heart. And I really don't think that we should be doing a lot of what we're doing. I think we need movement, don't misunderstand me. But I've read different Paleolithic books and diets and all this other stuff. And they say that as Americans, we how we do things, we supersize everything.
Right.
They tell us to do 10 jumping jacks, we do 35. Because we think it's
wonder
better.
why we're tired.
I wonder why we're tired and don't feel well. But Barbara, when you got there, it wasn't panic and all of that when you first got there. It was just kind of come in and
right.
And let's see.
And I still wasn't.
You still hadn't hit you yet that this was real.
Right. And so even when they told me, I would go, so should I be worried?
At what point do you know? When do you get worked up?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was so cool. Like, you think I should be worried now?
Right.
See, I didn't have blockage, and I was like, I'm worried. See,
Yeah.
that's the difference between the two.
I've had EKGs, but only really at my house. You know how when you do insurance work and stuff?
Oh,
they
yeah.
come, But I didn't know you could fail one.
Yeah.
And I think they need to probably make that obsolete because if that's not going to give you an accurate reading, or if you take the EKG and you fail it, just go straight to the blood work. If that works.
And especially if you don't have someone who, and I know that your person probably was the same, people who are skilled enough to know that that could be possible, and to look at all of your surrounding symptoms and see, well, better to make you wait a little bit and us to retest or even to do a blood test. Because once again, like you were saying, a different kind of, or maybe a regular urgent care or a different kind of environment may not have done that because they may not have had someone on staff that knew.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So that was perfect timing to go. Oh, you were following all of that. Her heart was blessed.
Right.
Like I said earlier, bless your heart. Because
God said, tap, tap, tap. I'm going to need you to do this. Go over here.
And my concern is I think that most of us, if we ever had to go to the emergency room, I think all of us would have blocked arteries. I don't think there's anybody walking.
I think
you're
right.
I don't think there's any of us.
Right.
Because didn't they say that there's a way that you may have a tad bit of blockage and have no idea until it grows to something?
Well, see, that's the scary part.
Right.
It kind of rubbed me the wrong way when you said you had 60% blockage, but they want to wait until you get to 70. Well, I don't want to get to 70.
Me
Stop
either.
me from getting to 70. You know, so
Right.
then why do I
Well,
have
that's
to wait
why. Well, that's why I'm on medication.
to help bring that down, to get that out? Yeah, because that's, well, at least you'll know about it. And
Right.
think of all of us that are walking through here that don't know about it.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I was diagnosed, you know, anybody that knows me knows I have thyroid and diabetes. And so for the most part, when I went back to the doctor, for whatever reason, when I did my blood work, she decided to come back with Crestoria or something, some sort of cholesterol pill.
Oh.
So, and I'm Crestor or something like that. And I'm not a big pill taker. I don't even like what I have to take every
I know
day.
what
So
you
I
mean.
definitely don't want any extra. So when she comes back in the room and she talks to me, she gives me this cholesterol medicine, asks me to take it. I keep it for 2 or 3 days before I even try it. I read it. I get my daughter on it. You know, she's a big interneter. She goes and looks at mommy. You know. So anyway, I did, and she said to take it at bedtime. So first of all, I don't sleep well. Period. So I take this pill at bedtime. Oh my God, I have anxiety out of the wahoo. I am up at 2 o'clock, frantic, panting. The dogs are looking at me like, what the hell? You know, and I don't know what it was I was feeling, but I had some anxiety. And then my joints started to hurt. And then I got nervous because, you know, again, when you live alone, you know, with pets and all, they can't make no phone calls that I fall and I can't get up stuff. Doesn't help.
Right.
So that really made me nervous, you know, and so I decided to see alternate ways of cholesterol, but mine was at 176. I don't know what it is now because the regimen I've chosen to do for high cholesterol, which is my LDL, I think. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I take 2 tablespoons of avocado oil. And so avocado oil, sunflower oil, olive oil, some of these oils are supposed to be healthy oils. Not only do I cook with it, but I actually ingest the oil itself, and then I just go straight to coffee, because once you get that oil, it's like, you know. But, you know, when it comes to your health, and as you get older, you do whatever it takes.
Sure. Especially now when we are knowledgeable enough to know what side effects, what they mean. And I think if you've ever not been healthy, the minute you see that side effect, because I'm the same way that you are. They say take something at night. I'm like, I don't even like to take an antibiotic.
Me either.
Yeah.
They say take that. I'm like, okay, this is going to be in my system for like 2 years after this now, because now I'm not. And I end up not being able to sleep because now I'm wondering.
Yeah, I'm frantic, right? Because and all of a sudden I feel things. Heart beat fast. You know, you just go into I go into a whole nother generation of
Absolutely.
But they have 5 most common heart problems. And do you know whether or not I guess you had coronary artery disease, or did you have a heart attack, or hypertension, stroke, or arrhythmia? I guess these
I have high blood pressure too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
they got that. It wasn't controlled.
Your blood pressure
prior to this.
Really?
No, we were working on it, and they put me on a different pill, and now it's controlled.
You gotta manage it.
So if you don't lesson learn, because I knew it wasn't controlled, so I didn't do anything about it. They put me on a pill that I could be 100/60.
And you still
Yeah. That's amazing. Those are good numbers. Those are the numbers you want.
So what about the aspirin thing, girls? What about that?
Well, I take that too.
So do I need to start taking that?
Well, consult the doctor first.
I don't talk to them. They're practicing.
Well, the only reason why
I'm practicing on myself now.
Because in order, when I went to the dentist, my appointment was last week.
Yeah, I just went yesterday, and I'm still kind of.
And I told them that I had a heart attack. Well, you have to get clearance from your
to go to the dentist
because I'm on a blood thinner. So you can when a dentist
you
can get bacteria or do something. So they got clearance, but they also told him that he told them that I'm on blood thinners for at least a year. So it's a baby aspirin and the blood thinner. Because in order to have surgery, you need to they want you to stop taking those because you can bleed.
I bleed out because it's so thin. You know, I've never taken aspirin. When I gave up meat at 17, I gave up aspirin at about 15. I was one of those kids that would read, and the minute I read that aspirin makes your stomach bleed, that did it for me. I was 15, so I haven't taken an aspirin. I don't really, you know, and so, because I was trying to figure out why would they give us something that makes your stomach bleed, and then Tylenol all has that acetaminophen, all that stuff in there that has aspirin. That stuff is at your liver. I have a friend right now that's just determined that he has kidney issues because of his diabetic medication. See, this is what bothers me. You're giving me
Dialysis
all this
and-
stuff, you know, and then you know, I don't want to have kidney issues,
Right.
and so I want off the meds. I can't seem to get away from them. I hate them, and I think the doctors just he'll give you another script.
Right.
And too, when I've talked to several, and I know several people in the medical industry, and they'll tell you quickly that nutrition is an elective. And they only have to take minimal hours of that.
Well, see,
And
that's
they're taught to diagnose and script.
That's it. Medicine is more like a science as opposed to actually being, and it's more anatomical. Having been married to a surgeon, I can tell you that they know nothing about nutrition. They just know, oh, you're not feeling good? Okay.
Yeah.
And then they start writing.
They know exactly
And
what
take
it
this-
is.
and right.
There it is.
And you don't have a conversation with me about what I'm eating, what time I'm eating, what kind of foods I'm eating.
What kind of environment?
But that's not part of their background. It's
Right.
just medicine. I mean, it's just science. So science is about here take this to alleviate that and keep going.
And I think too, and I'm sure you can understand that as well, the insurance companies make it where when we go in for a regular exam, okay, you got 15 minutes max.
Right.
What? Did they
If you
time
can't
that?
get
I
it
know
in,
they do the
one of the
hospital
doctors
beds.
told me that they have to get people in and out in 15 minutes. Otherwise, certain amount of coverage, there's a penalty.
This is all about
of some
money.
sort.
It's not about your life.
Because even the doctors that want to take time with you.
Right.
Because sometimes it's your food, it's your environment,
Usually
it's
your
your
food.
mindset.
Right.
It's your
It's a
stress
lot-
level.
Exactly. I know for me, I had a stress test 2 weeks before.
Oh, really?
And they're like, okay, well, you're good. You know,
Oh my
2
you
weeks
might-
before the heart
2
attack.
weeks before. To the place where the cardiologist who was responsible for letting telling me to do all of this, when he stood at the foot of my bed, he said some choice curse words because he thought, how did this happen? How
Especially
did
after
this
you
happen?
just, yeah.
My age, that
Yeah.
stress test,
Yeah.
there were so many, but that didn't mean I didn't have stress. That just meant my stress wasn't bad that day.
Enough for them to show
Right.
any.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was telling someone about my heart attack, and I said, yeah, I just had an EKG in January of last year, and it was fine. He goes, correct me if I'm wrong, he says the EKG is only for that moment. It's
Absolutely.
Are
not,
you kidding me? What the
Yeah.
hell? Why you?
right. That's what I was like,
That's
really?
the
I
way
did,
right.
Yeah.
And money, because it's pricey. It's pricey.
Yeah.
For that
It's
to
all
be.
about the money. What about your well-being, your living, your being healthy and having a healthy heart? So, we need to start now with these children, getting them into diet, proper food. The food is killing us. That's the first thing. We need to get our children into eating properly, exercise, and being aware of their heart, because we just take that muscle for granted.
Right.
Well, too, and nowadays, I was reading because what I did was I was reading what was going on with you. First of all, I was going, oh my gosh, that was me. Oh my gosh, that was me. And then I went back and refreshed my memory on a few things when they were talking about, 12 and 13-year-olds are having strokes now.
Are you serious? I've not
They are
heard that.
They have
The
diabetes now.
yes.
Yeah.
They have all of these, what I call
Grown-up disease.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And the propensity to have a heart attack in women is far higher, because when we go to the doctor, the very thing we were talking about, when we go to the doctor, they're like, oh, that's just heartburn, or you're just stressed. And they send us home. So therefore, we are that much more likely to have a heart attack or a fatal heart attack than men who typically don't have the same
That's
sorts
absolutely
of,
true.
Right.
because we didn't have chest pains, but
No.
my father did.
Well, they say
Yeah.
even women having endometriosis, which has
Mhm.
nothing to do with that, can have a heart attack. And a lot of times, ladies, y'all need to listen, because we can die faster than we die more than men
Absolutely.
from heart attacks.
That's the number one killer of women.
Right.
And it's now the numbers, I want to say it's between 21 and 30, when they did a test between 95 and 2014 that said the numbers are increasing for women between the ages of, 30 something and 54.
That's
Having a
young
heart
adult. That's
attack.
young. Yes, absolutely.
And
young
I'm just
adult.
like, but I run into the more I start to share with people when they ask me questions about a heart attack, the more I start to hear, yeah, my uncle, he was 35. Yeah, my cousin.
See,
I'm
that's
thinking,
scary
what?
to me. Yeah, they're having them early and
yeah.
earlier.
Because I thought I was an anomaly in the cardiologist's
Right.
office.
At 43, I would have as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it never ceases
Yeah.
to amaze me. And I know that I read something you were talking about. Let me make sure I get it right. You were talking about what information that they're giving you now that's going to help the cardiac care information. I think that is very important for people to understand that, first of all, there is life and there's good life after a heart attack, but they have to do some stuff.
Right.
And they have to reach out and speak out so they can get some stuff done.
Well, after you have the heart attack, are you okay? I mean, so you're saying there's life afterwards. Is if you've had some damage, that would be. And do most women get damaged, or most people get damaged after they have?
I think it depends on where it is.
Because you had no damage, right? You said yours was something about some artery in your back.
Well, I had the blockage and stuff, but since I went there quickly, the heart attack didn't damage my heart.
Okay.
So, because once your heart's damaged, it doesn't fix itself. So depending on that, but so time is
of
so
the essence at that point.
I mean, if you read stuff now, it's like the minute just call 911. I'm just
amazed that you were able to drive yourself. Because if I were able to drive myself, I would have thought I was fine.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, my head was just going back and forth. This just doesn't feel normal.
Yeah, you had to go. What were you gonna say, David?
Yes.
This is Barbara Humphrey.
Welcome everybody. But no, what I was about to say to that was, if I'm well enough to drive, then I'm okay. But if anything, for women, if I'm at the point where I don't feel well and I'm willing to drive myself, something serious is wrong.
Right.
You know, because my mom is one of those, I'm fine. Oh, it's okay, it'll pass.
Like
yeah, absolutely. That's what we do. And so when she, hers wasn't a heart attack. Hers turned out to be her gallbladder. But she felt bad enough that she was like, no, I need to go. I'm taking myself. And that's what she did.
Yeah.
And, to go back, Susan, to what you said about you 2 weeks before you had a stress test, my father had all kinds of heart tests and everything had been cleared for surgery, all of that. And it was right when they're about to take him in, the anesthesiologist is the one who noticed something and said, wait a minute, something's a little off. And he went back and looked through all his results and said, well, everything is fine. He goes, but something's wrong. And they kept asking my dad, how are you feeling? Are you okay? He felt nothing. And then there'd be certain points where they're like, okay, well, what about now? So he's like, well, maybe something's going on with my heart, but I'm not feeling.
Yeah.
I don't notice anything different. Nothing.
That's why they call it the silent. Is that one?
The silent killer.
Is that
the widowmaker?
Widowmaker.
Yeah. Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
The widowmaker.
So,
oh my gosh.
All of that took into effect, and that was scary because it's like, well, wait, they said everything was fine, and he said, well, yeah, they told me everything was fine, and then but thank God for that anesthesiologist who noticed that something was a little off. He didn't have a heart attack. He had some sort of, I think, a blocked artery or clog or something.
Talking about hypertension and
yes, because you were talking about being put on blood thinners, the same thing. That's what he had to get put on, and then it was other medication, and then his diet had to change because of the way it reacts to the medication and all kinds of things. So now, when I look at him, obviously he's lost some weight, but he looks very pale to me. And I notice that people who tend to have heart issues, they get pale.
Really?
That's why I'm pale.
We found it.
So, everything that y'all are saying, it pertains, it pertained to my dad and also to my mom. It was a different issue, but her pain was, she thought she was having a heart attack, and it turned out to be something else. But the fact that a woman is willing to say, hey, something's wrong, or this isn't right, or scared enough to take themselves, that's pretty serious.
That was the other thing that was me too. My husband, I'm not one of those people that's just going to rush on off in an ambulance.
No,
I'd never been in an ambulance in my life.
Me neither till then. Yeah.
And when he asked me, I was like, yeah, we need to go.
Ready to go.
And then I'm like, wait, it's the whole thing being pale. This wonderful intern, I wish I knew who she was. Wonderful intern. She laughed because she said, you're a happy person in the hospital with a heart attack because I'm breathing. That's why. But she wanted to come in and ask a few questions. I think, for one, because I was 43. That made me an anomaly. But she said, flip over your hands. And I did. She said, your hands are stark white. She said, did you notice that? And I was like, well, no, I hadn't.
Did you notice it when she said it?
When she said it, I knew it right away.
Really?
Because the pink that they have now, they didn't have then. They were stark, that chalky white.
Really?
And she said, even for your skin, she said, your skin is chalky. She said, and that is because She's like, they call your heart and your brain your diva organ. Those diva organs, they want to be fed blood.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not getting good blood, they snatch it from everything, your hands, your feet, every other part of your body that
to
you
get what they
need. And she said, all of that, I'm very warm natured, so me being cold for a year, it seemed like, all the time.
Right.
She's like, that was the beginning of things starting to go wrong, especially since you're warm natured. And she said, and it got to the point that I was so anemic, they had to give me 2 pints.
Wow.
And the doctor said, how do you function? You have so low iron in your body.
Well, because
we push through it.
We push
Exactly.
Right. That's
We
exactly right.
ignore it and
Women
say it's fine, and it's mind over matter.
Right.
Now we do understand that men and women have heart attacks differently.
Mm-hmm.
So your dad didn't really have a heart attack, so you can't really speak on what men experience.
Right, and even as they were looking at his results and had him hooked on the monitors, they could see something was going on, but he couldn't feel it.
That's
scary. I can't
Very
imagine.
scary.
Because it could
Absolutely.
have climbed into
Just
something.
that fast, that could've-
Yes, because he was wheeling into surgery. He was ready, prepped to go, and the anesthesiologist stopped it. So it was very scary.
Shout out to the anesthesiologist.
Absolutely.
That's not the
Yeah.
first time I've heard that they're very much the ones who
Well,
make sure that
they give you all of your anesthesia according to your weight,
Mhm.
which is what that propofol that Michael Jackson died from. They administer that, and they have to be quite
That's
accurate.
quite some liability.
They have to be. That's right.
Yeah.
They have to be quite accurate on how much they give you to keep you out
Right.
and
Mhm.
that sort of thing. So sometimes the anesthesiologist catches what the doctor doesn't catch.
Right. And how your signs, your
Yeah.
vital
Yeah.
signs look.
Well,
very
this
good.
makes me want to go get a stress test.
Right.
And I've had
And
one.
see-
But I guess I feel sometimes I eat right. I do my exercises, and so how you just feel like okay, I'm okay,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not always the case.
Right.
Because you were
Right.
saying you were eating right, you were
Yeah.
exercising.
I think
Yeah.
too environmentally.
I
You
think
don't know
mine
what
is
the-
stress though. I'm not stressed though.
That's stress. Yeah.
I think
See,
that's-
and for women,
Mhm.
for men, it's what the left arm,
yeah, they
that
feel
type
a whole,
of
they
thing.
feel
It's in their
something, a
chest.
pain.
But for women, it's what in her back.
A lot of the time.
Well, that's what Barbara said. Something
Mhm.
was happening in her
And
back.
I just believe that was prior, like a month prior.
Okay,
I was
okay.
hurting, but
Okay.
but I kind of think that was a sign.
And
It
I
probably
just
was.
read
And-
that.
Yeah, and my
Mhm.
arm,
Mhm.
it was this right back here, and I just
What
thought
does it
how
feel like?
it just like an aching pain. But I just
back pain.
wrote it off
Well, I
to.
have back pain, so I don't know that I would have differentiated this pain
See, and that's what
Mhm.
scares
from
me.
other
Because
back pain.
I live with migraines, and
Right.
so I know the tension. It starts in my
tension,
back.
right.
That's where I hold it. I hold it in my neck. So when I hear things like that, it's like, well,
How do you tell it?
how do I know which one is which? Because I'm so used to living that way.
Right.
Am I going to notice the difference to say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't just a migraine. There's something else going on with that.
Sure.
You know?
And I like to believe that under those circumstances that there are other, because I was the same way. I just had, we drive a lot in Houston.
Right.
So when
Yeah.
mine was coming in, I was having back pain, like shoulder pain. Just tensing
All
up.
of us, I think, hold our stress.
Right.
Exactly.
You know.
And if
Well,
you
just
ask
on
me,
the computer.
Yeah, you're
I
on the
used to-
right.
Yeah.
You're not in a good posture.
and if it had just been that, I would have ignored it.
Mhm.
That whole clamminess, shortness of breath thing was the deal sealer. I was like, something's not quite right. I'm having a little trouble. But yeah, I'm thinking
Right.
that. But it's funny that you mentioned before the heart attack. I just read once again, thanks to you. This is how I know this. Sometimes 30 days before you have a heart attack, the symptoms will start to appear. And one of the things they talked about was things like that, those sorts of aches. But once again, back to all of us who normally
Who
have
have
a back
pain.
issue, I wouldn't know if it was a new pain,
Right.
Right.
if my life depended on it, unless it felt exactly like it did the first time.
And I was feeling tired more than I normally. Like I wanted to on my days off.
Well,
I
you work
wanted to
long
come home and
hours,
take.
yeah.
And I'd be out running errands. And I thought, you know what? I can't make the rest of the errands. I'm gonna go home and take a nap.
That's definitely not you.
And it's not me.
That's
I'm like
definitely not
90
you.
to
I'm
that.
90. I know.
Yeah.
Right? That's definitely not her. So.
So I think those, now that I look back, were
That
signs.
hindsight is something else, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once you have to look back on something. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it did say basically that a heart looks the same as a man's heart, but there are significant differences. For example, a woman's heart is usually much smaller, and so the chambers that lead to her, the interior chambers are smaller, and the walls that divide some of these chambers are thinner, and a woman's heart pumps faster. I'm not surprised by this, than a man. I knew it was something.
We got to carry the babies,
We got all that. We got
we
guilt
got
tubes. Yeah.
and now we got to have a smaller heart to do it
Okay,
with.
okay.
I don't know. I
So,
need
yeah,
to
it
talk to
says
somebody about
The
that.
woman's heart pumps faster than a man's, but ejects about 10% less blood with each squeeze. And when a woman is stressed, her pulse rate rises and her heart rejects more blood. When a man is stressed, the arteries of his heart constrict, raising his blood pressure.
That it probably explains too.
Right. So when
there's-
a woman is stressed, her
Okay.
pulse rate and her heart ejects more blood, and a man just goes into high blood pressure. But it's amazing that it's a gender thing.
Right.
Well, yeah, even like you said, in terms of the symptoms in and of themselves, you know, the pains that men have as opposed to women. We never had a chest pain. I haven't met a woman yet
That
who's
has
had a
had
heart
chest-
attack. that's
This
had a
is what
chest-
fascinated
Yeah.
me, and
Never.
wanted to make sure that Barbara came in, even after reading her article that was written on her. You know, it was kind of like, people need to know this, because it's, if you don't know, you won't know what to look for.
Right.
Right.
You're just going through your life, you know?
Right.
And I think too, we have to be aware of our stress level and what's going on in our life, so we don't just, you know, sweep it under the carpet.
Right.
So.
Yeah, well, see, you know, again, we all move so fast.
Right.
Nobody has time to take the time to see what it takes to actually feel well. It says also that women have risk factors that men don't have, as we talked about endometriosis.
Right,
Something is
right.
Something personal.
Yeah.
Giving
What does
birth.
that what does that have to do with all this? But it says a lot that 40% of women under the age of 40 have a lot of issues that not necessarily tied to heart attacks, but can evoke
Exacerbate.
and exacerbate.
Fibroids.
Fibroids too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. What I never knew was, you know, all of that out
Yeah.
wasn't being replenished in.
Okay.
So
Okay,
that-
now that makes sense with the endometriosis. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So when
so
you're
all
putting
of-
out more than you're taking in.
Wow. Women are generally older when they have their first heart attack. So that tells us something. But you were still young,
Right.
and Barbara's only 59, so that's still
That's
young,
still young,
you know. So,
yeah.
you know, I'm not sure what we need to do about that. But estrogen offers women some protection from heart disease until after menopause. Then the estrogen level drops, and then your opportunity to have a heart attack increases.
But then if you do hormone replacement therapy, then your cancer,
Oh, well.
But
your
you got
cancer
something else.
increases.
Yeah.
You know,
can't do
you can't win.
Yeah.
You can't win.
six
with
in one
anything.
hand,
Right.
half
Right.
dozen in the other, you know. But I see a lot of these children. I read somewhere that a child had a heart attack. Small children. I guess that's more cardiac arrest, more so, because they have these different, you know, like I said, arrhythmia and hypertension
Right.
and some of these other. I would think that coronary heart disease would be basically a heart attack, because again, as I mentioned earlier, and what I read earlier is that when it's filled with plaque, which is fat and cholesterol, you know, that is coronary, that is the
Right.
artery. So I don't know how that just kind of damages the heart, you know, and cause problems at that level. But
And you know, with the kids, for that one, with the kids, you know, all the processed food. You see these
Right.
the parents buying them, you know, the frappes, these sugary caffeine drinks, and all that stuff. So, but we'll talk more about that when we come back right after the short break.
so we'll come back and talk about
Radio
what
Network,
you'll do.
the conversation is real to real to
Right about that,
The
man.
last 15 minutes.
I realized it after I was like,
You are listening to the
Whatever you
Brit.
can
Share
do.
your opinion
I'm gonna
by
read
calling
what I have posted on Twitter for them.
789-0096. Say
Hi, I'm Lachlan, and I'm sharing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got stuck in a meeting. I was like, okay, I can still make it on time, and then that ran even later. And I was like, oh. And the closer I got here, the longer it was taking me to get. It kept pushing my time back. I was like,
I
how do I
know.
get closer? And it's taking me longer.
They got to get there.
Social,
you
economic,
had figured too, everybody was getting off the road probably by then, and they were like,
Right in the middle of all that.
straight craziness.
They had something that they called a heart attack for a woman.
You ain't lying about them craps, man. I'll be
They
like, wow.
kind of call it.
Yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
see kids.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
before
That's crazy.
school, and I'm
Now,
like,
so
what are you doing? That's caffeine and sugar.
What?
Yeah, man. them
Seeing
craps-
kids, they're at the drive-through, or them
Yeah.
running into school with their Starbucks, or and it's like that's
Kids?
straight,
Yeah.
that's straight sugar and
Yeah,
caffeine.
like, they got like, what, like,
And then they want to know
40
why
grams of
ADHD
sugar,
has
at least
increased.
40 grams
No,
of sugar or
it's
something.
sugar.
I didn't think little kids could buy coffee.
Oh,
Their
yeah.
parents are doing it.
Parents.
Yeah.
Are you
Oh, that's
kidding me?
And
crazy.
even if the parents don't, they can just go up.
Oh
This is
yeah,
what I
they can
want.
buy
Oh
coffee.
yeah.
Really?
Think about it.
Like the most I used to get is hot chocolate, man. That's what I used to get.
Yeah, and even then,
That's
it was a
Right.
treat because of all the sugar.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not no fraps though.
What was one of the Starbucks down by the house is across the street from a middle
I
school,
come back.
high school, and down
I'm
to
gonna
the
do
grade
a
school.
library for Sam Houston.
And then, do we need to do?
Yeah.
Whitfield?
After she does Sam Houston.
Okay, I'll do a live reading. There you go. Live racing is back and better than ever at Sam Houston Race Park. For more info, call 281-807-8700 or go online to shrp.com. And don't forget, this weekend is live corgi races.
What kind?
That dog.
The corgi racing.
Oh, they're so cute. They're
I
so
would love
cute.
to see. Oh, how funny.
And also, need help setting up your pharmacy? Let Steve Stiles take care of it for you. As a pharmacist and a pharmacy consultant for over 30 years, Stephen E. Whitfield provides expert advice on pharmaceutical practices and services. His extensive years of experience and knowledge give him the ability to accurately diagnose and fix any issue negatively impacting the performance and profitability of your pharmacy business. Let Steve Stiles, pharmacy consultant, help increase your business. Contact him at 713-855-0800. You can also email him at swkappa1@gmail.com to set up your appointment.
And we are back. You're listening to All About You with OMG and Friends, where we talk about the things you think about. And what we're talking about today, you really need to give some thought to, because my friend is here, my co-host is here. You have two women here that have suffered heart attacks, so you need to survived and here to tell you about it so they can help you out. But we have my co-host
Daydream.
Yay. Oh, you're Wellness Warrior Susan Ned, sorry.
and my in-studio guest,
Barbara Humphrey.
Barbara Humphrey. Okay, this here says that unlike the dramatic chest-clutching pains that that we see in the movies, women often experience symptoms that are 2 or 3 weeks before they have the heart attack. I think y'all just said this. And so, number one, Barbara, is what you just said, new or dramatic fatigue. That's one of the new things that happen a month or so before. Then you have the shortness of breath, of the sweating, and then you have the pain in the neck, the back of the jaw. That's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that I would know.
That scares me even more.
As I said, I don't know that I would know. That's
my
all of what I
migraine
feel.
symptoms,
And I haven't
all
had a
of that.
chiropractic visit. All of that hurts.
Right.
So I don't know how that's gonna be different. But like I said, but a heart attack is harder, it says, for women than for men to recoup from if it doesn't become fatal.
Well, because we run ourselves dry.
We do.
Yeah.
You know, we
We work
keep
hard
going, you know, until the wheels fall off, and even then we're like, well, you know, I can still get a little bit further.
Right.
You know, because
Yeah,
like Barbara said, she knew she was tired, and that was unlike her not to be able to finish her errands for the
Right.
day. But let me just take a nap. I just need to rest a little more,
Right.
and then let me
Yeah.
keep going
Right.
instead of, hey, this is
Let me just
unusual,
chill.
something, you know, maybe something's not right. No, we keep pushing it back and just keep
But
trying.
Barbara's perfect physique. I mean, thin.
I would-
How tall are you?
yeah.
About 6'5",
5'9",
5'10".
Oh, yeah.
I mean, tall and thin, no
Average,
fat, no
healthy,
body fat,
right.
none of this.
And I was 30 pounds heavier, so it wasn't, I mean, everyone always says, I carried it well. Yeah, whatever that means.
Yeah, right.
But I was 30.
I know what that means, and I do. I know what you mean. Yes.
But you know, being that it was, you know, I was 30 pounds heavier, so it in my head I was like, oh, okay, well, I was like solid, like heavy. But once again, I know a bunch of people who are your size,
Thin. I mean,
active,
eat well. Yeah.
all of that other stuff. But when we have conversations like that, that's when the exploration is. Okay, now we start to talk about the stress. Now we start to talk about maybe some of the other things that may have contributed to. And it's like, okay, yeah, I can see now how other people can have that going on.
So, after all of your stuff, and you were very pleased with Memorial Hermann.
Yes.
What was the prognosis? What did they tell you to do after all of this? What do you have to do to maintain? What do you have to do now to just woosah? I mean, just get in and be cool and there.
Well, they had given me a sheet about cardio rehab, so I was reading about the different locations and what they provide. And so when I got out of the hospital, I called them to get it set up, and of course they had to get the doctor's release. So they got that, and I signed up, and I do it 3 times a week at Memorial Hermann, Memorial City. have one of the largest
That's the
cardio
wrong area.
rehab.
Okay.
Yeah, and so.
Now, what do you do there? What do you do with the?
Well, they monitor us.
Okay, so
too.
that's kind of-
So we have the like a mini EK or something that's
Mhm.
monitoring
Strap to the
our
heart.
heart.
Portable, yeah.
And then they check our blood pressure 3 times throughout the class. One when we get there, one while we're exercising the treadmill or the bicycle.
Mhm.
They come up and then at the very end they take it again.
All the time.
So you see it elevated when you're
We exercise.
right, and then it at the probably it comes back down after you finish.
Did you have to do the same thing?
You know what's funny?
12 years ago? I mean, that just goes to show
Right.
the time and how, you know.
Right.
They have it's an act. I mean, people thought I was like just meeting. It's just me and I'm meeting somebody, a person there, but it's
They
a
didn't-
class.
Okay,
There's like
so you,
20 of us.
okay. And
And,
everybody's
and
going
they have
through the
about
process.
4 RNs
Okay.
there, and it's wonderful. It's my insurance covers it for 90 days.
Yeah.
It's like 36 times,
Mm.
and they do nutrition. We warm up, then we get on the treadmill, and then we do weights
Okay.
after the treadmill, and then we
So it's like a mini gym for a couple of weeks,
Right.
for a couple of months.
right.
So what do they tell you about diet? Because I think the food is killing us.
Oh, absolutely.
This is why young kids have heart attacks, have diabetes, have stroke.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Because
this is why
everything's processed.
everything is
Mhm.
processed.
Full of sugar, full
Yeah,
of high
sugar,
fructose
yeah.
corn syrup, full of caffeine, hidden caffeine. They're
Mhm.
pushing all these energy drinks,
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
know, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that's why elementary and junior high kids are passing out on the field during their sports. You know, because you're supposed to have a physical. Come on,
Yeah,
what is a physical?
right.
It's
Yeah.
cough, breathe, stretch,
Absolutely.
bend. Cool, you're
You're
ready to
done.
go.
You're good.
That's
Mhm.
it.
Right.
And two, I think what a lot of people don't know is what other things contribute to a heart attack. Diabetes is one of the one
Oh, I
primary
yeah,
know.
thing
And
that
you
contributes
know,
to a
and
heart
that's why I
attack.
have. That's why I'm concerned with diabetes as well as the cholesterol.
Exactly.
You know, because that's a precursor right
Mhm.
there. But I know that your LDL or your cholesterol can be inherited.
Yes, that is true.
So, you know, I haven't gone. I was supposed to go in on the 4th, but I canceled till 15th or something because I don't feel like being pricked and stuff. You know, I get into my mood now for a little while, so I go next week. But you know, I really need to know what the results will be for blood. I didn't get blood work the last time, but it's
Sure.
time to get blood work now. And I'm almost afraid, which is why I think I pushed the appointment back.
Mhm.
Give me more time to drink
Exactly.
pure damn avocado oil and see what happens and eat some oatmeal and see what goes on. But you know, if it's hereditary, then I don't know what I can do about it. And I've seen people fat with high cholesterol and still be healthy. That's an oxymoron.
I
You
was
know
just
what
gonna
mean?
say, it's like,
You know what I mean? I mean, be fat,
But
overweight,
be at a lower risk.
yeah, be at a lower risk. How does that happen?
You know what though? I told someone, and maybe my brother-in-law made a comment to me, big guy, and I think he made a comment to me because he's probably a couple years younger, and we were having a discussion about the heart attack, and he was like, "Well, all my numbers are good. All my numbers are good," and he was a little bit, you know, kind of like, "Ha ha ha, I'm this." But I said, "But the problem is that doesn't mean that you won't walk out of the door and drop dead."
Right now.
Right.
See, me, I just had something that said, okay, you need to get this in order. You may one day just walk
Think
outside
things are
and drop
fine
dead.
and
Right.
just drop.
Because
Is that
it's
that's one of the
hereditary.
massive?
Absolutely.
That's one of those
Yeah.
massive heart attacks. And you
Absolutely.
don't come back from that one.
Absolutely.
I've lost friends like that.
And I didn't have, because they were, I was very, very blessed. I never needed a stent. I did not need open heart surgery.
Oh, that's
Everything
good.
that I had to do was a part of my living. I had to change
Right.
that. But the problem with that is, and I see now when you're 43 years old, you have a bona fide heart attack. It wasn't just a pretend. They're
Right.
giving you all the same medication that my
Right.
folks in the
older
waiting
your
room
older
that are in their
baby.
80s were getting too. They do not offer you squat if you don't start digging in. Because I'm sitting there going, so what am I know you want me to eat right. What does that mean? Because at the
Right.
time I had no
What does
idea
that
what
look
that
like?
means.
What
What does
does
that
that
look
look like?
Right.
when you want me to exercise, well, what does that mean? Because right now I'm scared to death that every time my heart palpitates, I'm going to fall out dead.
Exactly.
So what does
Right.
that mean? But I think in the environment that you're in, and
Right.
my mother, when she had open heart surgery, she had the same thing.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful class.
Yeah.
They're very much hands-on. They watch you. If you feel any kind of anxiety,
Mhm.
they were right there with her. And I watched that, and I watched how she evolved, and I watched how it helped her health.
Mhm.
But they do not have anything that I know of so far if you don't have it to that extreme. But that's when you need the help the most.
Absolutely.
Or if you don't have insurance.
Okay, here we go.
The majority of people are
Right.
Yeah, that's a whole
underinsured
Mm-hmm.
or just flat out no insurance.
Well, can hospitals turn you down? I don't know. I thought
They can kick you out.
Can they really?
Yeah.
I didn't
Okay.
think
well,
that- I
you're
thought they
stable
had to
enough.
take you.
When you're stable.
You're
I
stable
think
enough
once
that
they
I'm
get you stable,
Right.
right.
They
And
can
you're
send you
stable
home,
enough,
and
and
you
here's
die
your
on the way
stuff,
home.
and we
Right.
gave you this to read, and so
We did
now
all
we're
we
not
can do,
liable.
we're done.
You can't sue us.
Right.
You need to get out, and let's get a bed to people who can afford
It's
to
always
pay.
about that
Right.
bed. It's about
Always.
Yeah.
And by the way, you all, I did a post, and I want to make sure to continue to share it because for that very reason, I was trying to find out information on clinics and other places that will provide medical care for people who are either underinsured or have no
That's
insurance.
important. We need
And
that.
not that they won't take people with insurance, because
Right.
I think that that's important as well. And because I know that Christ Clinic in Katy, they will take you if you're underinsured and if you don't have any insurance. And they also take
Okay, I
regular
know
folks
what-
with
that's
insurance.
around the corner from where I used to work, but I
Mhm.
thought there was something. It's in a little strip mall.
Well, it's in an office building, but you still have you go in and there's a bunch of other
Okay,
things
because
in
I
there.
heard, well, I know they have one right there on East Avenue or somewhere like that. So I thought
Okay,
that was
okay.
it. But I knew they had some restrictions. I thought, I don't know, some restrictions. I thought they.
Well, I'm trying to gather that sort of information
So we can
because
put
one
it
of the
on-
things I recognize too
Mhm.
is during the time that I had my heart attack, and I know that you have insurance too, I was very blessed that I was able to, for as many times, I went to the hospital for anxiety attacks after that because I was freaking out.
Yeah.
But I had it where I could go. I had it where I could go. I could pay for
And
that.
that's a blessing to
Mhm.
be able to do that.
And I think that that contributes to why people end up having very dangerous cardiac moments because they don't have
the
insurance.
and they go home.
They
Right.
do.
Yeah,
Like, I can't afford to go.
Yeah, they go home or they just, why go?
Right.
yeah.
I can't afford the medication they're going to prescribe for me anyway. And
It's
that's what
crazy in
another
this
thing
country that
I
we have people that have to deal like that, But again, this is mainly about blessing your heart and taking care of yourself, and some of the help for the heart. Barbara just went over with us some of the activity that they have her go through.
Mhm.
Did they have a nutritionist with you? To
They
make sure
do.
that
We
you-
do. Yeah, and I met with the dietitian.
Okay, so you have all that to exercise. Schedule an appointment with your healthcare provider to learn your personal risk for heart disease. Quit smoking. Did you know that just 1 year after you quit, you'll cut your risk of coronary heart disease by 50%? Start an
amazing.
exercise program. Just walking 30 minutes a day can lower your risk for heart attack as well as stroke. And modify your family's diet if needed, which is always will be needed.
Absolutely.
Check out, healthy cooking tips, and you'll learn smart substitutions, healthy snacking ideas, and better prep methods. So, for example, with poultry, you know to eat leaner meats, and with chicken and stuff like that, take the skin off. This is something you've got to get engaged in order for you to bless your heart. God has already blessed it, but it's up to you to bless it the rest of your life. So, on that tip, we'd like to thank my
Thank
guest,
Barbara.
Humphrey,
Yeah,
for
thank
being
you so
here.
much.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you,
naturally, my
Lois,
host.
for sharing your
Yeah.
story. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
you have anything on the way out? Okay, so I guess next week we're going to talk about the angry black woman.
Dun, dun, dun.
You want to come again?
I'll be in
Barbara, sit it.
I think I'm going
Yeah, all right.
there.
Oh, it's international. You can catch us in
Okay,
cable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Guys, have a good rest of the week, and we will see you next week on the radio.
All right.
Expressed on this program are not necessarily valid.
Y'all made me feel comfortable.
This is your
Good.
No, I did.